at 5:01 because Scott was late. All right, and from what I remember, the first order of business was to appoint a chairman for this year. And it seems like it's a dubious honor for Cheryl to be this year's chairman. Wouldn't you agree, Gil?
Oh, absolutely.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, done. Okay.
Very good. Well, thank you, gentlemen. I appreciate.
Oh,
So
our
I
pleasure,
guess-
trust me.
Yeah, no problem, no problem.
All right, so we'll start on with making a motion to approve and sign in the office the meeting minutes from April 6th.
I'll
Make a motion.
second that.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye,
Aye.
Aye. A motion to approve and sign in the office the workshop minutes from April 9th.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
Excellent. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And finally, a motion to approve and sign in the office the workshop minutes from April 22nd.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Perfect. All right, moving on. We have Planning Board Chair Bonnie Ham that's joined us this evening, and she has some questions regarding the enforcement of the earth excavation sites. Bonnie, would you like to unmute yourself and speak?
Yes. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yes, and some of the, whoops, and I can do the video here. Yes, and some of the members are here. I think we're just looking for information for our board. We have some of the Scott's here, of course, and I think Robert McAfee is here and Margaret is here. Basically, if you all remember in October, we learned that, first of all, the west side of the Calder pit was in, the pit had expired and was in non-conformance, so that we did a site visit, and so that we brought that to the attention of the selectmen, who are the enforcement agent for the town. So technically right now it's in the selectmen's hands for enforcement action. And I know it was represented in October that there would be no more digging in the meantime, and that work would be done over the winter. Obviously it was getting late in the season and very hard to hire anyone to come in and do any plans for the site. So we said we'd regroup in the spring, that the permit owner would work over the winter and put together what was needed in order to apply for a new permit. Under our regulations, you do not get a permit renewal anymore. You have to apply for a new permit. So it got to be spring. So I got to wondering where the enforcement steps were going, where they were at. And so I brought it to the selectmen's attention. And so, that's why we're here, just to see what enforcement, what the selectmen's position is as far as the status of the enforcement. I believe that the applicant needs to come for a new permit if he intends to continue to have a permit there. If not, then it needs to be restored. So that's basically where it stands. We're just here to find out the selectmen's point of view on this and where we go.
I think the point of view, Monty, is that, he needs to apply for a permit. And I think Steve was working on it over the winter, and we should probably ask Steve where the status of that is.
Right.
And what you're missing to be able to do the permit. He put in a very short version of the permit, I guess, in the fall. And we need to know what he needs to have it complete.
Right. Do you want Steve LaFrance to talk first, or do you want me, or what do you
Why
want?
don't you go ahead and say what you're missing, Bonnie, and
All
what
right.
you feel you need to have this done, and then Steve can respond. Because he's
Well-
done a lot of work already, and I don't really know the whole scope of his work.
Okay, all right. First of all, we need an application form, and we do have a preliminary one. It's not complete, but we do have an application form that is
And a check.
and a check. Yes, we do have that. What you need is an excavation plan of the site and a scheme to remove the materials. You need a plan that shows the location, the extent, the boundaries, the topography, prepared by a surveyor, the distances to the boundaries and the dwellings, the visual barriers, the aquifer and natural features, the acreage and volumes to be affected, details on the access road, the average elevation, the to groundwater test pits, a minimum of 6 feet deep, soil data, boring logs. We need a scale of contour intervals. We need hours of operation. We need the alteration of terrain permit, which I feel I've heard is in the works with the state of New Hampshire. We need a reclamation plan. We need a bond, and we need an abutters list. We have a basic form, and we have probably the abutters list. We have a list of abutters, not with addresses and complete details, but that's all we've got, and we need all these other things.
Some of that probably could be recreated by them from the first permit, correct?
I have that, I took that out. Usually, quite often, you take the prior approved plan and start there and perhaps make
Tweak
amendments.
it.
So this plan that I have was one prepared, the plan in the file from the last permit. And remember, there was a name change. There was a name change from Thompson to Calder. And so that was basically a name change. So the plan we have on record was prepared by Harry Burgess, a surveyor forester from Bath, New Hampshire. It was prepared for D Sand Gravel LLC. And that plan was prepared and approved on June 29th, 2015. So that's a basic place you start. Probably you contact Burgess and say, look, hope you still have that plan around, and start there. It's got a lot of, I don't know if Margaret can put it up. She has a copy of it. Maybe she can put it up. But anyway, you start there. You really don't have to start from scratch.
I don't think we really need to see the old plan. I mean, it's just,
No,
But
maybe you could email it to Steve.
You start there and change it. Obviously, the area is different. The area to be disturbed is different, isn't exactly as portrayed on this plan. So you show where those new boundaries are. Probably the natural features haven't changed much in the topography and so forth. So there's a lot of good information, and hopefully the applicant has one of these around. And also,
if not, we have it.
Right, we can scan it in and email it off to them.
if not, I certainly have it. I got it right here. And there's also a restoration plan. So you'd start from there and adjust that, make changes to that. It's quite a detailed restoration plan. So a lot of detail on here. So you just look at that and how is it changed and so forth. So basically that whole list I read off, a lot of those answers are on these two pieces of paper I have. And the alteration of terrain permit would come from the state, and I think I saw that maybe in June that will be done. The bond is the bond, that's easy. Butters list is the butters list, that's easy. So we just need new plans, these updated, and then probably we're pretty well all set.
Okay.
I have a quick question on procedure. For my time on the board, I don't remember anything on 155E that makes the selectmen enforcement for pits. Can you give me that particular number?
Yes, I've got that. I've got my law book right here.
That is what we're talking about, but no matter what, for the Calder's benefit, this is kind of where this is going, is what we need anyway. So,
That's
Yeah,
fine. I just wasn't aware that the selectmen were involved in enforcement and planning board and pit excavations.
I think what they found out, Gil, and I'm not sure of this either, is that the planning board does not have any enforcement powers itself, but I'm not sure that's the case.
all right, and we have a new earth excavation ordinance, which was adopted February 8th, 2021. So it's there in the RSA somewhere, and I'm gonna look in our own ordinance here. And administration, section 9, administration enforcement. You conduct your site inspections and so forth. Non-compliance with an existing permit may result in refusal of a subsequent permit. Amendments.
I'll tell you what, in the interest of moving it
Time.
along here,
Yeah.
just give me a call, Bonnie. You've got my number, and
Sure.
let's, if it's
Very
new as of 2 months ago, then yeah, I don't remember. I haven't looked at the regulations.
No, it's not new, Gil, whatever they came up, whatever was come up with.
All right.
But I don't
Well,
know
in the
either for
interest of-
sure.
of moving us along, why don't we
Yeah, let's
uh,
figure it out.
If
get to
I,
that another time?
Yep.
if I find it,
Just
Bob,
wanted to,
if I find it before the meeting's over with, I'll enforcement.
Steve,
Okay.
could you fill us in where the Calders are at with this?
You can unmute yourself, Steve.
You're mute. Yeah.
Calder Construction got a letter of deficiency back in November of last year, and Rex sent it to me and said, hey, can you take care of this? So the letter of deficiency identified really two things that needed to be done. One was a restoration plan, and the second was an after the fact alteration of terrain permit application. So we pulled together the restoration plan and submitted that to the state. That was approved on November 3rd. So of course, November 3rd, we're in the middle of the winter, the ground's frozen, and there's not a lot you can or really even should do that time of year. So essentially it was work to be done once the ground thawed. So part of that restoration plan is putting in some sedimentation ponds, some stone check dams, some silt fence, the purpose of which essentially is to make sure that none of the runoff from the site ends up in surface waters causing erosion or siltation. So that's underway. Kevin Hayes is doing the erosion control inspections. The original letter of deficiency said that we had to have a alteration of terrain permit application in by March 1st. Part of the work effort for an alteration of terrain permit is to identify wetlands, soil types, and also do pretty much impossible to do with snow on the ground. So we reached out to the state and said, hey, can we push this submittal date back to June 1st to give the environmental consultants time to get out there and do what they need to do. So the submittal date for the alteration of terrain permit application is June 1st. We have finished the on-site survey. Stony Ridge Environmental is doing the soil survey, the wetland delineation, and the wildlife study. And I talked to Cindy, the owner, last week, and she said she'd have that done within 2 weeks. So hopefully a week from today, she'll have that done. So we're pretty much on track for having the alteration of terrain permit application in by June 1st. Much of the information that we need to submit to DES for that permit application is also what the town's looking for: grading plan, limits of disturbance, restoration plan, total volume to be removed, a lot of that information. So I think it's going to dovetail reasonably well. Rex didn't ask me as of yet to do the town permit application, but it's not too much of a stretch for us to do that based on the information that we need to pull together for the state. So I think that we could have, we have to have the state application in by the end of May, and I think we can have the town permit application in as well. The only outstanding issue beyond that, I guess, is the bond payment. And Ayotte doesn't typically require much with respect to, there's a discussion about hours of operation, that sort of thing. I did see that in your permit application. So that's something that we'd have to discuss with Culders. But beyond that, I think we should have pretty much everything we need by the end of May.
That's great.
Terrific.
It'll take
Thanks,
a couple
Steve.
of months to get the alteration of terrain permit. I mean, we'll submit it June 1st. It could be, it could be August before we get that permit in hand. Probably will be.
So realistically, we can't get a gravel permit until we have that alteration of terrain permit anyway.
Right.
So that gives us plenty of time to get the gravel permit put together.
Yeah, that's one of the documents that we need is the alteration of terrain. So we have time. Yeah, we have time. And I know here it is, May. I didn't want to see it, carry on and lose the whole summer before the pit owner
So there's no
inspector
real
does
need
this.
for any enforcement here because
No.
I think everybody should be aware that he's going to. I talked to Rex, that they are going to just continue to process the material that's already excavated on the site, which would be some gravel crushing and things like that. But that's the only thing he has planned on.
So
which
this
he
is
talked to me about.
Kevin Foley. I just want to be clear, the selectmen are going to let him work without a permit and a bond,
He is not digging anything.
but he's running a hammer, right? That could create damage.
I don't see that is, it's not going to create damage. I mean, he's going to have permission to run that hammer. I mean, it's a gravel pit, and that's part of the operation of a gravel pit. And he's always had that permission as we've gone along. I don't know how everyone else feels about it, but I don't see his processing the existing material that's already on the lot to be an issue.
Well, I think the people that voted for the excavation ordinance would see it that only licensed gravel pits can operate in town.
Well, the question that you have out there now is whether or not he can crush material on his land. And I know I can do that on my land without a gravel permit.
Right. You don't have to have permission to crush material on anybody's property.
A person, you do not need an earth excavation permit to make use of stockpiles. That's
Right.
stockpiling materials. So anything that had previously been blasted or dug up or excavated or whatever that's in a pile is a stockpile, is a storage of material, which is not earth excavation. It's the product of it, but as a general rule, a person would have a use of the stockpiled material.
So we're talking about a company, not a person. And the company broke rocks with equipment for 3 weeks last year after they blasted. And that's running a quarry, a mine. They're not a person, they're a company.
Either way,
They had permission.
the selectmen, the blasting part of it wasn't part of the planning board's actions or a permit. That was a permission that the selectmen gave to the contract. I think the owner already had in place, and the selectmen gave that approval. That wasn't an action on the part of the planning board.
The Calders had state permission to do the blasting earlier, and it takes a good I'm not in the business, but it takes many months to get these blasting companies to come in and do the work. So they had already been scheduled for many months. So we let them, we gave them permission to go ahead with the blasting.
Thank you, Steve. Thank you, Bonnie.
The reason that I said the selectmen were the enforcement, they are the ones that the ultimate relief for this is to go to Superior Court. And any kind of action along those lines, those decisions would be made by the selectmen. Any kind of injunctive relief, cease and desist, for instance, is another option. There's several options when somebody's in non-compliance with a municipal regulation. And we don't have, the planning board members don't have cease and desist powers. We don't have injunctive relief, or we don't have the powers to bring an issue to the Superior Court. But the ultimate relief is to go to Superior Court and resolve it there. And I don't think any of us wanted to go down that route.
Well, we're nowhere near close to that anyway.
No. No,
Not
That's
going
fine.
down that road.
No, I think the whole idea was to get the gravel pit into compliance. As we go along, Steve is working on that, and the Calders are working on that. There's no new work that's going to be done until the pit's in compliance and we have the permit. So I think we're going down the right road.
We are.
yeah, and I'm very happy we had this talk and this this meeting, you know, to know where it's at and to look forward to getting through this process with the proper documentation and the permit in hand.
Just
Thank you,
one last
Bonnie.
thing before I sign off.
May I speak?
I don't have a copy.
Hold on, Mr. Kimball. Steve is speaking.
Yeah, I don't have a copy of that earlier plan and restoration plan from Harry Burgess. If I guess I could get a copy of that email
Sure.
to me, that would be handy. I think the footprint's going to change, so you know, we'll have to adjust those plans, but it'd be a good starting point.
It's a very, very good starting point. And I have extra copies. I mean, somehow I can get it scanned to you, or somehow we can make those available. And yes, I think it's a very good place to start because it is a surveyed plan. There's tons of details on there that are very usable for the new permit.
Well, I'm going to be down there next week to do some stuff with Mike Welch on the easements for the town garage. So if you want to just leave it at the town office, I can swing by and pick it up.
Yes, I'll leave you a copy there. Yes, I will.
All right, sounds good. Thank you. Everybody have a good night.
Very good.
Thanks,
Thank you,
Steve.
Steve.
Thanks, Steve.
Yep.
Thank you,
Bye.
Bonnie.
Thank you.
Mr. Kimball, you were on the agenda. You're in the next item on the agenda. So I just want to add before you speak that we apologize for the delay on the response to your email a week or so ago. I believe you received a response from Selectman Rice earlier today, answering your concerns and explaining the current status of the situation, but you're welcome to speak.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Okay. I've been listening to the conversations here about whether a permit is needed to continue to do anything down there. And I believe if you look at Title 12, Chapter 155 for the local regulation on excavations, Section 1 definitions, it defines the regulator. And it's very, very clear that the planning board of a city or town is basically deemed the regulator. And if there is no planning board, then it's deferred to the select persons. And if it happens to be an unincorporated township, then it goes to the county commissioners. Therefore, the decision on whether or not or who has control over this, I believe, is specifically defined as the planning board. And if that is the case, and the planning board issued a basic letter of deficiency of not continuing to do any work, and then somebody on the select board or the select board itself agreed to allow continued detonation, I'm curious to see what legal authority was used to do that.
I don't think the planning board ever sent any letter saying to stop anything. I think it was talked about. The Calders were talked to about, and then they talked to the selectmen about that. Correct, Bonnie, if I'm wrong?
I'm sure we did the site inspection in October, and I'm sure Key would look in the minutes of the November, I would say the November meeting, as to exactly what the planning board said. It's my understanding the planning board didn't want any further earth excavation at all without a permit, and that they could make use of the stockpiled materials, the materials. And there's a definition of stockpiled materials. That's material is detached, already been, there's a definition of it. But material that's already been detached from the topographical surface in a pile, that's a stockpile. And it can be a variety of materials from ledge, gravel, sand, any kind of earth material is a stockpiled material, and that it could be used. Period. And there was some discussion with, say you had a big piece of ledge, can you break the big piece of ledge and that's detached from the topography into two pieces? Well, that's probably where the blasting came along. That's probably where that came in. And the decision was made that this one big piece of ledge could be blasted into two pieces so long as it isn't attached to the topography. But we had nothing to do with blasting up large pieces of ledge into smaller pieces of ledge. And hopefully the blasting wasn't new material attached to the topography. I'm not sure of that. I don't know, but.
No matter what, like I said in my email, it was surprising such a professional company did have some debris go other places.
Yeah.
Yep.
Well, was the decision to allow the blast to occur by the select board recorded in any meeting? I
Yes,
was not able to find any in any meeting minutes.
it should have been.
And Margaret is on, she's our secretary. I don't know. We can look at our minutes and let you know exactly or you can look yourself, the exact wording of whatever action we took.
I did look, Bonnie. I didn't find anything. That's why I was asking
Okay.
if anybody knew definitively whether it was actually recorded.
All right.
It was discussed, so it should have been
It was
recorded.
still
properly.
discussed. Exactly.
It was discussed. I'll have to look and see what got written down in the minutes.
It should be minutes in November between
In
the two,
November.
between the planning board and the selectmen, because it would have come from you guys right to us at our next meeting. So,
Yes.
okay,
Okay.
very good. Thank you. Oh.
Point, this is Robert McAfee. I was there with Bonnie and the rest of the board at the site inspections with Rex, and we did have the discussions that Bonnie described about them being able to process and utilize existing material.
I'm having a hard time hearing you, Mr. McAfee.
Oh, I'm sorry. Is this better?
Yes, your last part broke down or broke out.
Yeah, I just wanted to say that, everything that Bonnie described for our site visit is, as I recall it too, we did speak to Rex at the time, and we did all agree that he could process all the existing material on the site. So anything that had been mined at that point, he was allowed to process, which at that time, that also meant rock crushing. So if there's any question about that, you've got 3 people on the line right now that were there for those discussions.
I was there as well.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay. Very good. Thank you all for your comments. Moving on to the next item on the agenda. We received notice of retirement from Mr. Kippy Ayotte from the Highway Department this coming month. We really truly appreciate the service and hard work that he's provided to the town of Woodstock for the past 17 years. We also want to wish him the very best in retirement. With Kippy's retirement notice, we need a motion to authorize the Public Works Director, Mike Welch, to post and advertise this position. Do I have a motion?
I'll make that motion.
I'll second
Thank you,
it.
Gil. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Very good.
And Kippy, thank you for hanging in there even longer than
Yes.
you really needed to.
Again, thank you, Kippy.
Really
Absolutely.
appreciate it.
Next item, we have library reopening. We received requests from the librarian, Wendy, to bring back part-time staff beginning next week to help prepare for the next phase of reopening the library. Do either of you have any concerns with this request?
I think it's probably time to start getting ready.
Good. Well, being none, I would accept a motion to authorize the library to bring back their part-time staff.
I'll make the
that
motion that I'll second it.
Very good. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Very good. Next on the item, Police Department. We received notice from Chief Millar that Sergeant Willie has submitted a letter of resignation. The Select Board wishes Sergeant Willie the very best in his future endeavors and thank him for his years of service here to the Woodstock community. With Sergeant Willie's resignation, we need a motion to authorize Chief Millar to advertise the officer position now vacant.
I'm gonna make a motion. We should advertise for the officer's position.
I'll second that.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Very good. Next item, 4th of July. The Lincoln Board of Selectmen voted on April 19th to support the 4th of July parade and fireworks this coming summer. Pending there's no heightened executive orders or guidelines from the Governor of Public Health, I would recommend we too support the 4th of July festivities. Do either of you have any concerns with that?
I absolutely make a motion that we go ahead with the 4th of July, as usual.
Very good. Do I have a second?
Yeah, I'll second that.
Very
If we
good.
need a motion for it, do we need one?
We should.
Yeah.
We should, just to be sure. So all those in favor?
Aye,
Aye. Yeah, I guess we're spending money for fireworks, so.
exactly.
Right.
Okay.
Next on the agenda, we received email from Donna Wyre. Ms. Wyre, if you're on the call, thank you for sharing your concerns regarding the speeding enforcement on Main Street. Your concerns have been shared with the police chief and he is reviewing that situation. Next up, we have workshop session updates. Whew. In our last workshop, we discussed some preliminary rates for water and we'll begin working on the sewer rates for the next workshop. Once we're satisfied with those proposed rates, we'll appropriately support the water and sewer systems. Then they will be posted for residents to review in addition to a public hearing for residents to share their input. After all of this takes place, and prior to a selectmen's meeting, we will then make an official vote of approval. The other item we've spoken about is we continue to discuss and hope to finalize very shortly plans for monitoring and maintaining the town parks and waterways during the summer months. Old business, Old Fairfield Road. Unfortunately, the town attorney has not been able to review the Old Fairfield Road request. We hope that, I should just slow down talking. We hope that she will have time in the coming week or two to review it and draft an agreement that's required or requested. Next on the agenda, we have public participation. Is there any additional public participation on the items that were discussed on tonight's agenda?
I am curious about what the question is with Fairfield Road.
It was discussed in the last meeting minutes. Mr. Young is looking to pave his portion of the road. And then he offered to also pave the portion of the class 5 portion of the town. I'm just looking for that right here in the minutes. And so right here, we decided that that needed to be brought forth to the attorney, and that the agreement would be drawn up relieving the town of any responsibility or liability to the class 6 portion of Old Field Road that he would like to pave. And then the attorneys were also looking at whether it would be in the best interest of the town to allow the Youngs to pave the class 5 portion of Old Field Road.
Throughout the history of the town, there have been a lot of situations where people have paid to do roads and then the town has taken them over. Is there any consideration being given for the town to change that class 6 part into a class 5 road to make that a town class 5 maintained road? I mean, part of our.
I don't think he wants it,
No.
To be honest. I don't
No.
think he wants that. Because it just serves his 2 houses in this case.
I understood he sold his house, so there'd be another person involved in wanting or not wanting it.
Could be, but I think his intent was not to go that route. But I mean, at this point, all he's looking for is really permission to pave the class 6 road. He was kind of making it, he's considering more of a driveway. But I mean, that's certainly what you're saying is a possibility, I guess.
Yeah, it's just, part of the things we've been doing in the master plan for the planning board is to look at, providing the same level of services throughout the town to all the town members. And, that's part of it is, taking these class 6 roads and turning them into class 5. And
if I may, generally, when the town takes a road over, it's usually on a subdivision or something of that nature after they have brought everything up to the town specs.
Right.
And then it gets voted on as to whether we would take it over or not.
I don't think this is going to be to town specs. I don't think
that
that's the
doesn't
plan.
kind of explain what's going on at Stone Dam Road, does it?
Excuse me?
That doesn't really explain what you're doing at Stone Dam Road then.
Well, that's
if
I recall,
class 6 road for North Woodstock that you've been bringing material to.
It's not. It's a class 5 road, that section.
You're saying that Stone Dam Road in Woodstock is class 5.
There is a section of Stone Dam Road in Woodstock that was turned over to the town by the state that is class 5. Robert,
We can certainly, Mr.
yeah.
McAfee, we can add you to the agenda for next week's meeting if you'd like to discuss Stone Dam Road more, but it is not on tonight's agenda.
Please do.
Okay, I believe Judy, does he need to send you an email with that request?
Yeah, and yes, and Robert, if you'd
Okay.
like
Just so
some
you
of
know,
that information, I can give it to you.
Just so you know, my point is the goal of providing the same level of services for everybody in town.
Appreciate that. Is there any other comments or questions from the public at this time? Seeing none, then the selectmen are now going to enter into a non-public session under RSA 91-A:3E. After that meeting, we will come back into public session. We will put you all in the waiting room. If you'd like to stay on, we will bring you all back in to hear us adjourn.
I need a motion to go into non-public, please.
I'll make
I'll
that
make a
motion.
motion. Second.
Oh.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Very good.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Thanks to all for your input this evening.
Thank you very much.